This is our last video about fractions, and we're going to be talking about dividing fractions. So let's look at this. We have a new word called the reciprocal. And so the reciprocal of one fraction flips the numerator and the denominator. So the reciprocal of 1/2 is 2/1. The reciprocal of 3/4 is 4/3. As we go through our discussion today looking at how to divide fractions, we're going to find that this idea of a reciprocal is going to be helpful. So let's look at an example of dividing with whole numbers. So let's say 4 divided by 2. This is asking us how many 2's go into 4. So we can take away 2 2's from 4. So our answer is 2. If we have 2 copies of 2, it gives us 4. So 2 goes into 4 2 times. But what would it mean if we have 1/4 divided by 1/2? What this is asking us is how many halves can go into 1/4. So how many pieces of size 1/2 can go into 1/4? And this is a weird type of question. So again, let's draw a picture. So this is a square divided into 4 pieces. Each is 1/4. This is a square divided into 2 pieces. Each is 1/2. And we want to find out how many halves can go into 1/4. So if we look at these two pictures, this whole thing over here is 1/2. So how many pieces of this size can fit in this square? Well, if we think of only 1/4, let's for a moment take away the half that we don't care about. So exactly 1/2 of our fourths, set that backwards, exactly 1/2 of our half is a fourth. So that means 1/4 divided by 1/2 is 1/2. Now this might take some time to get accustomed to. It's a weird idea. We're counting how many pieces of this size can go into pieces of that size. But there's a very straightforward way to divide these fractions algebraically. So if we get rid of all our pictures, what we find is that if we take the first fraction and multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction, we get 2/4, and 2/4 reduces to 1/2. So without drawing pictures, without any of that mental gymnastics, thinking of how many pieces of this size fit into pieces of that size, we can just multiply the first fraction by the reciprocal of the second fraction. And we already know how to multiply fractions, so that makes it a little bit easier. So let's do one more example. And we won't worry about drawing pictures this time. We'll just write it out. So let's say we have 3/4 divided by, let's say, 5/2. Now we could ask, how many pieces of size 5/2 go into a piece the size of 3/4? But that's going to be really confusing, and it's going to be hard to draw pictures and do that mental gymnastics. So instead, we're going to take our first fraction and multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction. So 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 5 is 20. And we can reduce this fraction to 3/10. So 3/10. A quick mnemonic for how we often remember this is we say keep for our first fraction, change because division turns into multiplying, and then flip. Because when we take the reciprocal of something, it flips the fraction so that the numerator ends up on the denominator and the denominator ends up in the numerator. So keep, change, flip is one way we can remember that to divide fractions, we multiply the first fraction by the reciprocal of the second. And this has been how to divide fractions.